Hey everyone, this is Bart. Welcome back to Deep Nonsense, the show where we peel back Hollywood's curtain, sometimes to fact check the impossible and sometimes just to bask in the movie magic.
And this is David. You know us from our Science Meets Cinema deep dives, Ghostbusters gear, RoboCop tech, even everlasting gobstoppers.
But today, it's time to go real deep, not into a single film, but into the sacred ritual of seeing movies where they were meant to be seen, on the big screen.
That's right, Bart. We're talking about the theater experience, why it still matters, why everyone should get back to it, and most importantly, how not to be a complete jackass while you're there.
So dim the lights, cue the popcorn, and let's dive real deep into the magic and the madness of going to the movies. Oh, David, how are you doing today?
You know what? We made a decision about this particular recording session to do it early in the morning. There are a lot of things I'm regretting right now about that decision, but I'm glad we're here. And I think we should not wait too long before introducing the third voice.
Ah, yes, the third voice. The third voice, his name is, introduce yourself, third voice.
Hello, I'm Matt, and I took care of all of my early morning decisions before the podcast.
As you can tell, ladies, gentlemen, and germs, he's a responsible adult.
Oh, dang. Well, thanks for joining us today, Matt. This is a subject that's very near and dear to my heart because I grew up. My absolute favorite thing was going to the movies, and it was kind of my sacred space. Like, you can get away from everything. All the distractions go away. You just go sit in a dark room and immerse yourself in a story for 2 hours, and it kind of feels like it's going away a little bit. Whether it's people not knowing how to act in a movie theater, or the presentation is just not as good as it should be or used to be, or this is going to be a whole lot of old man shakes fist at the sun kind of ranting, but I don't know. First of all, let's just get this out here. David, Matt, when's the last time you guys went to the movie theater? What about you, David?
Oh gosh, I'm going to think about that one for a second. It has been a little while. Obviously, with the advent of streaming, right, and everything being available online, which is not new, but it's just a fact. So many films that I want to see now, if it doesn't beg for the big screen treatment, a lot of times I'll watch it at home. I'm gonna have to think about that one for a second. It's been a little while, actually. Matt, what about you?
For me, it was Sinners, and I went specifically. The director Ryan Coogler put out a video on YouTube that was him explaining the different film formats that they shot the film on, both 65 Panavision, I believe, and IMAX 15 perf. And he did a really nice explanation of like what that was size wise on the screen, and then how important that was to see it in the large format. And so there are a couple of IMAX screens here in Austin by my house, and I went specifically to go there to see that presentation. And I think that was the first time in a long time that a filmmaker, we could probably count on one hand how many filmmakers do this, but it was the first time in a long time that a filmmaker was like, I shot this in a specific way for you to see it this kind of way. I think Christopher Nolan did it with Oppenheimer, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And, Quentin Tarantino made a big deal for Hateful Eight that was shot in whatever that was.
I think it was the Ultra Panavision.
The Ultra Panavision.
Same thing that Coogler shot this in.
Yeah. So, when when a filmmaker is making that type of presentation, I feel like I want to go support that for sure. And with Sinners, it was that case.
Yeah. And for me, the last movie I saw in the theater was also Sinners. I was unable to go seek it out in a 70 millimeter format because it just doesn't exist in St. Louis where I live. typically one of the theaters here in St. Louis will do a 70 millimeter film production
That's right.
or
Yeah.
presentation. I saw Oppenheimer 70 mil film. I saw the Hateful Eight 70 mil film, but it just didn't happen for Sinners, which kind of stinks. So I just went to my local six screen theater and checked it out in the, what is it, like 2.76 format,
Hmm.
super widescreen. And it was great. So why do you think it's important to actually go to the movies, Matt, instead of just sitting at home and watching it in your living room by yourself?
Naked.
I'm asking myself that question more and more often. I mean, the naked thing I
Yeah.
have to do at home because of the restraining orders, but the otherwise, I think that I do ask myself that question more and more often. Partly because when we were growing up and the movie theaters was this sacred space that you're talking about, the home viewing experience was pretty trash.
Oh yeah.
I saw The Matrix for the first time on VHS, and it blew me away on a 18-inch screen on VHS. And then when I saw it on the big screen, it was like, what even is this? And we experienced things like Jurassic Park or Twister or whatever on the big screen first, and that was an experience that you could never have at home. And now everybody's got a 55-inch, 65-inch, 75-inch, 85-inch 4K television at their house.
Right.
And the concept of the communal experience that comes with going to a theater, I want to still believe in, but then I go and I participate in it and I get reminded like, oh, actually maybe I didn't even want to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
People suck.
So I'm starting to get more and more turned off just as a person about going out to the theater for that experience. It's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
The presentation isn't that great. The product that you're getting isn't that great, and the experience that you're getting with the other people in the space quite often isn't something that I want to participate in very often.
I agree with you 1,000% on that. I personally have a 120-inch screen in my basement with a 7.1 surround system, and it's a great place to watch a movie. David, you've been here. We've watched
I
many
have. We've
movies.
watched a bunch. Yeah.
And it's a great spot to sit and watch a movie. The one thing you're missing is the community aspect, which is for
Thanks, Bart.
me.
Thanks.
I mean, like when I sit and
David,
watch
you've
these
come
movies
seen
by
a lot of
myself,
movies here,
yeah,
but there's
you
no
just
community.
you
But there's
just
no community.
the one thing you're missing watching it by yourself is the community aspect. Like seeing a movie in a packed theater on opening night was something else, and anymore it's like the only time I get that is when I'm working at the Sundance Film Festival. Um, like I've seen documentaries with 1,200 people, which never happens.
Well, yeah, forget
And,
that.
so like that's like such a rare thing, but it's like it kind of scratches that itch. Um, but I think to your point, Matt, going to out to a theater and sitting in a crowd of people that just I feel like people have forgotten how to behave in public. I think whether it's turning their phones on in the middle of the movie or talking to each other or showing up late.
Mhm.
It's just like I don't know. I guess maybe the movie theater is not as sacred of a space to other people as it is to me, which is it's a real shame. I just don't know. It's something that I'm very passionate about, and I just need to hear what your last movie you saw in the theater is, David. Have you thought?
So,
It's been like
yes,
35 minutes.
I know, right? I appreciate you guys giving me that space and being so eloquent about your own experiences. So yes, I did remember. It was Fall Guy, actually, was the last.
Ah,
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Now, the amazing thing about that experience for me was that because we're talking about sort of the deterioration of the community aspect of theater and then also just people knowing why they're there in the first place. Fall Guy was strangely the exact opposite of that. The whole theater was laughing together at certain points. People did the little gasps. The love story in it was you could tell everybody was melting, I mean, obviously, Emily Blunt. I guess Ryan Gosling was in it too. And anyway, but so it was strange because it was such a different experience. It was such a contrast to what I have experienced on a on a typical basis when you go to the theater. As you said, people checking their phones, just talking sometimes to other people as if there's nothing else going on. Um, and in the middle of the movie going out and buying enough concessions to feed a small country and then trying to make their way with that back into their seat over 6 other people in the row in
Mhm.
front of them. It's I don't think people go to the movies anymore to go to the movies. I think that's one of the things, because we do have the experiences we were talking about a moment ago. You've got these massive screens in your own home, people with these amazing sound systems. Going to the theater isn't special. It's sort of like, yeah, that cathedral's been violated now because we've created that experience in our own spaces to some extent.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think that's a big part of it, is that people go, well, this isn't really special anymore. And at home, they bring the same behaviors from home to the theater, right? It's like, well, who cares if I get up in the middle of the movie when I'm at my house? It doesn't really matter. Who cares if I take a phone call while I'm watching the film at my house? And so suddenly they come to the theater and those behaviors are just transitioning to that space. So Fall Guy was amazing. It was presented well. It was a great audience to see it with. But as I say, that's the exception now, not the rule.
You've got
Yeah.
presentation, correct? Normally, unless I'm going to, like, say, an Alamo Draft House,
Hmm.
or a little bit in the past, like the ArcLight cinemas in LA, the presentation, there was always something wrong with it. Whether it was back in the film days, it could be a little out of frame,
Hmm.
it could be a little out of focus. It just seemed like every time I went to the theater, I had to go and get a member of the staff to fix something. Now that just might be me because I worked at a movie theater for
I'll say
7 years.
context here, right?
And yeah, because all through high school, I worked at a movie theater, and I was the guy that was in charge of the presentation. Um, and I still run a movie theater once a year at Sundance Film Festival, so it's like in my blood for this presentation to be perfect. And I just don't like paying $15 for a ticket to go in there. And like for example, when I saw Sinners, it's a super widescreen theater, and the curtains were pushed in
We're
for
pushed in.
all of the
Yep.
trailers. And then I had to go out and be like, hey man, your curtains are pushed in, and I know for a fact this is an ultra wide theater. You need to open the curtains. And the guy was like, what? And I was like, just go open the curtains, trust me. And it was the first screening, so so obviously somebody maybe would have told him. I don't know, or we would have had every audience in my town watching the movie with half of it cut off because of curtains. I don't know.
Well, why don't they know? Don't they check that presentation before they run the film for the first time? Isn't that,
One would think,
or
because
did
when
that go away with digital?
that's a good
Yeah,
question,
that's a really
because
great question.
we used to get the film prints on a Tuesday afternoon. I would put them together, run them, splice them together, and then Tuesday night or Wednesday night we would watch the film to make sure the presentation was right, take any notes we needed. Oh, the curtains need to be open on this, the curtains need to be closed on this. Oh crap, the splice between reel 3 and 4 jumped out of frame, one frame, so we need to fix that. um just all these little things. And now I think that they just get a DCP on Thursday night that probably doesn't activate until midnight, so
So they can't screen
they
it.
can't even screen it and see what it is. So
And
Yeah.
is it one DCP that goes to? Is it like in one brain that feeds all the theaters that
that's a
it's
good
seeing,
question.
Oh, that's
or
a great
is it?
question. So it's
Yeah.
basically running off of a server like that, right?
Yeah, I don't know, because when I left the movie quote unquote industry, the film presentation movie theater industry, we still had 5 film projectors, and
Yeah.
everything was on film. This was back in 2001, so I'm not sure. And in the theaters that I run at Sundance only have one projector, so that's a good question. I have no clue. And then but to your point, David, everybody's got, like you said, everybody's got the big theater in their house or
Hmm.
whatever. It's almost a little like, Matt, you were joking about this the other day. It's like, hey, mom, can we buy Super Mario Brothers 3? No, we have Super Mario Brothers 3 at home, and it's like some cheap knockoff version. That's what it is. It's like, no, we got a movie theater at home, and it is a cheap knockoff version. Like,
Yeah.
I could go in my other room here and watch Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith, and it'll be great. But might be a
Will
little
it?
bit better. I like Episode 3. But it might be a little bit better if I go out to my local movie theater and watch the re-release that just came out this week and see it on the giant screen.
Well, the only thing that would be better there would be, in the case of that, there's people who want to go see a 20-year-old film
Yeah.
Right.
on purpose,
Yes.
Right. There's a
right?
point to it. There's a
Mhm.
Like those people are going to there to see that thing, and it's not your typical average, weekend. Like, what are we going to go do? Let's just go to the movies. What are we going to see?
right.
I don't know. And people just show up and buy a ticket.
Yeah, it's not taking a
Um,
gamble on the new movie centers. It's you're watching a movie you've seen before and love.
yeah,
Yeah, I get that.
I feel like there's this combo of things that make it difficult to want to go to the theater.
Yes. All right.
It's
What are they?
okay. So I think it's ticket prices are
Mhm.
extremely high. So you're in it's a financial commitment to go. And counter to that, the cost of watching it at home, either by renting it, streaming it, or actually buying physical media, is equivalent or less than the price of going out to the theater.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
The presentation, although much larger and probably louder, and the mix might be slightly different, it's not perceivable. You can have a setup at home that makes it less perceivable to have the presentation be different than at
Mhm.
home, as compared to like when we were kids and you just had a little box TV at home,
Mhm.
and they'd say like, oh, this is pan and scanned, it's been fixed, whatever, to fit on your television,
Right.
and you had a VHS tape that looked terrible.
Mhm.
So the contrast was extremely different. So there's the presentation of that. There's the exhibition of it, which is, to me, it's everything that the theater is doing from the moment you walk in. So the theaters used to be filled with people like Bart, who worked there and cared about movies and cared about the presentation and cared about the filmmaking itself and made sure that the picture was pristine and the sound was right and the curtains were pulled and everything was right in the presentation for the people that were coming in. And now it's like the people who run the theater don't even know what they're screening. They don't know anything about their theater. There's no care in like what the presentation is or what they're putting on. So the exhibition of it is not good. The food is bad and expensive, and it adds to that cost if you want to eat the food there. It's usually poor quality, no better than the microwaving something at home
Yep.
or whatever. And then if you don't like how people act in public these days, that can be a real deterrent,
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I think we're more isolationist since COVID. Like, I
Absolutely.
think people are
Yeah.
more isolationist. They want to be in their own space, or they got used to being in their own space. They stop trusting community more.
Mhm.
So it's more comfortable to be on your own. So all of a sudden, you've got this thing where it's like, I have the presentation that I prefer in a space that I like, with food that I'm interested in, watching a thing I like. And it's like, is there a positivity to going to the theater that outweighs the the bad things about going to the theater,
Mhm.
that makes that experience so good that it's better than just watching it at home? And now that they've decreased the window from theatrical release to home release to a ludicrous thing,
Like a
sometimes two
month. Yeah.
weeks,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
it's like, you want to go see the new Steven Soderbergh movie? Well, it's in the theater this week, or just wait 2 weeks and you can pay the same amount of money and own it forever.
Right. Or until they
That's right.
Or
decide your license expires. Yeah. Um, for me, I agree with every single thing you said, and now that you said it out loud, I'm like, why the hell would I go to a movie theater? And it's it is number one. It's the community aspect, the communal experience of seeing a film in the theater, and that honestly only really works for me with two genres of movies, and that's horror and comedy. And they don't put horror, or they don't put comedy movies in the theater anymore. So there's not that experience of going to see Dumb and Dumber on opening weekend with a packed crowd, and like everybody laughing their asses off together at the jokes, and like because the rest of the audience is laughing, you might miss a joke here or there, but you're still laughing your ass off because laughter is contagious. And so that community aspect is something that I have tried to recreate at my house. We got a large inflatable outdoor screen that on the weekends during the summer I will blow it up. I'll stake it into the ground. I have a projector that I bring outside. We set up a movie. I have a speaker it's not the greatest speaker in the world, but it's loud enough for everybody to hear. And we invite all the kids in the neighborhood and their parents, and they all come and gather in my backyard, and we will watch. It's been sort of an 80s film education for these kids in the neighborhood. We'll show them E.T., we showed them Ghostbusters, we did Back to the Future, we did The Princess Bride, we did The Labyrinth, we did, it's like all these movies that me personally, I've never seen with a group of people larger than 4 or 5 people in years, and that's been really, really cool, is also watching these from about 8 to 15-year-old kids just being entranced by movies that also transfixed me as a child, and to realize that these movies still work, I guess, which is really, really cool. um let's move on here for a second and talk about some theater crimes. Okay. These are things that I don't know, that just infuriate you when you go to a movie. For me, the big one is talking. Whenever I went to see Sinners, the 2 people that sat right next to me, they were talking through the entire trailers, and that's fine. It's the trailers. I get it, but I do like to watch the trailers. But if somebody wants to talk during it, it's not the actual film that I paid to come see. That's fine. And it was just like we're watching the trailers, and I hear this lady and her son. It's just like every 30 seconds. It's just enough to be annoying. And then when the movie starts, the credits are rolling, and I hear, and he gets up and walks out.
Were you
And
living in the Peanuts world? Is that Charlie Brown, the
right.
teacher?
And so he comes back with popcorn and soda and whatever, and so I'm like, okay, fine. They're gonna shove food in their faces, and they won't be talking. And the lady, I swear to God, she takes the popcorn, puts it in her mouth, and when she puts the popcorn in her mouth, she goes, oh, and starts chewing on it. Every time she puts something in her mouth, it goes, oh, oh. It's like she makes a noise with her throat when she puts any, even when she takes a drink, it's like, and so I just got up and moved. And I moved to the back of the theater, and I sat in a different seat. And right at the climax of the film, when all the cool stuff started happening, I hear from behind me. And I was just like, my God, I can't win for losing. So it's just like that. And did we go see Fall Guy together, you and I, David?
No, I saw that
Okay.
by myself.
So I saw that. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, dude, the Community was great.
Oh, it was good.
He saw it with a community of people.
That's right.
Yeah, we went to see that, and one of the things that happened during that infuriated me was all these kids that came to see the movie were on their phones the whole time, and it was just like in my peripheral, it was always a light coming on, and it's just like, can you really not check Instagram for 2 hours? My God. Which is one of my pet peeves whenever I watch even a movie at home with my family. My daughter will be on her phone. My wife will be on her phone. And even sometimes I'll be on my phone looking at it, but it's only to look at IMDb because I'm like watching the movie and I see an actor and I'm like, God, I know that guy from somewhere. Where is it? And I'll check it real fast. Because otherwise I'll think about it through the entire film.
You have your own list of exceptions.
That's the only one for me, but that's only whenever I'm at home. What about you guys? Is there anything that just really infuriates you whenever you go to a movie and something happens?
It's always talking for me. That's the thing. I same thing. It's just so distracting, and particularly if it's just going on throughout. There's a great line Greg Kinnear says from You've Got Mail, where they're in the theater trying to watch a movie, and the person in front of, or he's talking to Meg Ryan, and the person in front of him turns around and shushes him, but it's during the ad for the concessions. and he goes, a hot dog is singing. You need quiet while a hot dog is singing. It's hilarious. But so that kind of stuff doesn't bother me. Concessions ads, but I actually really, really don't like if people are also talking during the trailers. That's frustrating for me because it is part of the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't shush somebody during the trailers. And I've never actually had to shush somebody during a screening, like an actual presentation of a feature. So I don't know if that would work if I did. I'm not really, even when I'm assertive, people are just like, that guy. But it's so true. but yeah, it's definitely talking. I don't think there's anything more rude. Even checking your phone, I don't think is as rude as talking during a film. And it's not just because of the distraction, but and this is more coming from the artist side of it, it's that this is something that someone has done with purpose. It's something that someone has taken time to create. Numerous, sometimes thousands of technicians have worked on bringing this thing to you for your entertainment. And you're essentially going, I couldn't care less. Sure, I gave you my money, but I'm not going to give you my attention, which I think is worse, to be honest.
I think there's it feels like that goes along with, there seems to be like a general lack of decorum when it comes to other people,
Mm-hmm.
just in American society in general at the moment. And I can't speak to, countries outside of the United States, but like you go down the street and you're trying to walk your dog and you've got your dog on the leash and you are picking up its poop and you're doing all that stuff. And then someone comes along and they think, they've got their dog and it's off leash and they assume that you want your dog to meet their dog and you
Oh
like
yeah.
all this stuff, right? And they have no sense of like what your life might be like. There's no sense of like, oh, I shouldn't be like this because it's rude to the other people, and I think that carries into the theater and people are talking because they're not thinking about the experience of other people,
No,
which
lack of
is,
consideration.
yeah, lack of consideration. And I think that's all over the place. But in the theater, one, we're old enough to remember when it felt like there were rules around that.
Mm-hmm.
And two, for me at least, it becomes heightened. Like I hear it more,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm trying to pay attention to this and I hear this over here. And all of a sudden it's like that becomes super loud. And I can only pay attention to that because now I'm annoyed by it, you know? And I
Yeah.
think for me, a good example was I went to see A Star is Born and I went to the LA iPic. And the iPic, if you don't know that theater chain, is like Alamo Drafthouse. You can have a whole meal at the iPic. And this particular theater, they only had 8 seats, and the 8 seats were couch style. So there's 2 seats in a couch with legs up and pillows and blankets, and trying to recreate this home experience, I guess, is what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there with my girlfriend at the time, and the two people behind us talked through the entire last third of the film.
Ugh. Ugh.
And we tried to shush them or whatever. And the film ended, and I went and I let them know pretty vocally that they
Ha.
had just ruined the entire experience. But in that case, it was like the the cost of the tickets,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
the cost of the babysitter,
Yep.
the cost of the meals,
Right.
which is
Park
not
and parking
not
and yeah.
and parking and the time. And so we probably spent, for two people to go to a movie, probably spent between $100 and $150
Yep.
for us to go to the theater and have a third of the film, the end of the movie, ruined
Yeah.
by these two people who didn't have any sense of decorum when it came to like thinking about other people and their experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So did you shush them during the movie or after?
I shushed them during the movie and they
Yeah.
didn't listen. But then after the movie, I laid into them while they were sitting there and I let them know that they ruined the movie. And then we awkwardly walked out and they went to the bathroom and so did my girlfriend. And I stood outside the bathroom with my arms folded and they came out of the bathroom and tried to apologize and I let them have it again.
And you're like, I do not accept your repentance.
Yeah, I was like, you're going to ruin my experience. I'm going to let you know that you've ruined it.
Right.
You've been a crap person tonight,
Yeah.
the two of you. So
That's funny. I have also shushed someone in the theater. I don't have a problem doing it because, like I said, I worked at the movie theater for 7 years. That was my job. People would come out and be like, "There's people talking in the theater." Oh boy, let's go! I would gladly go in there and just be like, you know, there's 100 other people in this theater that have also paid $10 to see this movie, and you're ruining it for them. You guys need to be quiet, or we will give you your $10 back and you can leave. And and that's kind of the way that I come at it whenever I actually shush somebody today. If somebody's being loud and talking, and I will go over to them and like crouch by their seat, and I'll be like, look, there's a lot of other people that have paid exactly as much money as you have to see this movie, and you're kind of ruining it for all of us. You need to be quiet. And a lot of times they'll get that, oh, and you're going to be a and they get all mad. But I don't say what I want to say, which is I want to turn to them loudly and go, you feel like talking? I feel like talking. Let's go to the movie theater. Like, come on. It's just so dumb. If you're in the theater, I think, okay, let's talk about rules for being in the movie theater. What's your number one cardinal rule? After the trailers, don't talk.
Don't
That's
talk.
my
That
number
should be
one rule
number
for
one.
me.
Yeah, that should be the number one.
And I have the other rule, even for me, like sometimes I will skip the concessions at the theater and bring in my own snack, which that's kind of a no-no whenever it comes to the theater rules.
Kind of.
But I will bring Twizzlers usually because I can get Twizzlers at Walgreens for $2 instead of paying $4 at the theater. I feel guilty when I'm sitting in the theater and I unwrap the Twizzlers and it's like,
Yeah.
every time
Right.
you pull out a Twizzler, it's just like, and I'm like, oh my God. So I feel like I have to rip the entire package open and just set the Twizzlers on my lap so I don't
Heck yeah, man.
mess with the wrapper. I'm trying to be that quiet.
That's what Matt was saying earlier about consideration, right?
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah.
just think about the fact that that's going to affect someone else's experience. And I think that, yeah, rip the things open at the beginning and then, you've got as many Twizzlers as you can possibly handle during the screening.
Yes. What about you guys? Any other rules that you'd invent?
If I, this doesn't happen a lot,
Okay.
and it's not so much because babies are great. I think babies are awesome, but I don't think babies enjoy being at a theater. And and I don't think the other patrons enjoy when babies are in a theater.
No.
So I think that if it's a kid's movie and you bring your kids, that's awesome. And
Yes.
you know what? There's an environment there that is anticipated. It makes sense. You've got kids. They're going to do stuff and they're going to be loud and they're going to laugh and they're going to ask questions. That's what kids do. That's amazing. But if you go to see The Godfather, you shouldn't bring your infant. That's just my
Right.
thought. It's just my thought. It's
Daddy,
not
where'd
good.
he get the horse head?
It's not good for the kid,
Nope.
and it's not good for the other people. So I think that would be another rule: is don't don't bring your baby to Event Horizon. It's just not a good idea.
Back in the 90s, whenever I worked at the movie theater, we had a rule, and that rule was no children under 5 will be admitted into PG-13 or R-rated movies after 6 p.m.
Okay, after
Period.
6. Okay,
Yeah, because that's when the price went up to the evening prices. Was at 6
okay,
p.m.
got it.
So the idea was, if you're going to pay extra money to come see this at night, you should not have a child talking if you're trying to see an adult movie.
Right,
Not an adult film, but an adult-oriented movie.
You can bring the kids to the adult films. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, yeah.
This is how you were made.
Well, not
Right.
exactly, but
Well,
close.
yeah, a lot quicker than this.
But it's funny. I got into an argument with somebody on Reddit about this same thing, where somebody like said, "Oh, we were at a movie, we watched a thing, and some lady brought her kid in, and we're trying to watch whatever the movie was, Mickey 17, and it's like this kid was talking through the entire movie, and I just like stated like it's ridiculous to bring a child into an R-rated movie or a PG-13 movie.
Yeah.
There's other people that pay the money. There's other people that are trying to get out, and they're like, well, how the hell else are they supposed to go see a movie if they have a kid? And I'm like, you get a babysitter like the other
Yeah.
people in the theater did, because it's not your personal playpen, and it's like, and these people just like piled on me like, oh, what are you, some kind of boomer? And
You're such a boomer.
oh gosh, all right,
Maybe we
fine.
are.
Maybe we are.
Maybe we're turning into that. That's right.
I don't know.
Gen X boomer style.
Matt,
Yeah.
what is your what would be either the rule you would create or the one you think that needs to be reestablished for theater etiquette?
I actually think it starts with the theater itself, the exhibitionists, where I would bring back on a large scale to the larger theater chains like AMC or Regal, something that Bart was talking about earlier about being invested. The people that work there should be invested in what they're doing, in what
Right.
they're presenting. When I lived in LA, there was a group there called the ArcLight Cinema, and when you go to the ArcLight, no matter what branch it was, on the name tags, the people had their favorite film. It was like, my name is Matt, and my favorite film is The Thing. And then they all saw the films. They all knew about the presentation of the films. They could speak to it. You could be getting your popcorn and they had fancy stuff like bratwurst and stuff.
Ooh.
You could get your food
Mm-hmm.
and talk to the concession person and say, "What have you heard about Mickey 17?" And they'd be like, "Oh, it's this, and Bong Joon-ho and is the director, and he won the Academy Award for this, and he did the da 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 da," and give you a whole spiel of stuff. Even if they never saw it, they had a paragraph of stuff to say,
Mm-hmm.
and had an opinion. And that's part of the experience of getting you hyped about the film. You're
Yes.
about to go, you just spent all this money and you're in the concession stand spending more money, and you're about to go have this experience and sit in the theater and be there for 2 hours and watch this thing. Every single thing from the parking lot until you hit your seat is part of that movie going exhibition experience and should be special for the amount of money that you're paying for it.
Yep.
You're paying half an airline flight to go to the theater. And when I went to go see Sinners, I went specifically to the Regal that's by my house in order to see it in the IMAX presentation. And I walked in and I walked up to the woman at the counter to get my concessions. And I said, "Is this a true IMAX theater, or is this a Limax theater?" And because I didn't know, and she didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
She had no idea what type of screen was at her theater. And they have a Limax there, and they have one of those 4DX shake you in the seat, spray you with gasoline smoke or whatever it is, theaters there. And the people who work there have no idea what it is that they're selling.
Mm-hmm.
What is she just like? I don't know. The screen's pretty big, I think.
That's what she said. The
really?
screen's pretty big. And
Wow.
she didn't know. And then, like, I bought food there, and it was about lunchtime. So I did something I don't usually do. And I got there was a hot dog special. And I was like, I want the hot dog special. And it comes with a soda, and it's a hot dog and a soda and a candy for like $20 freaking.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, I'll have the hot dog special. How much is it? And the guy was like, I don't know. And he looks behind him on the screen to like see what the thing is. And I'm like, you don't know how much the hot dog costs, and you don't know what size the screen is, and you don't know, and you work here. So like my experience going to see this film is shit from the second I get out of my car up until the point where the film started, because it's walk up to the thing, talk to the people who don't know anything about the thing, get a shitty hot dog, go into the theater, find my seat, watch 20 minutes or 30 minutes of advertisements before the movie starts. I'm texting Bart. I'm on my screen during a Coke commercial. Like, I'm still here for 20 minutes watching commercials. This is unbelievable. I watched 30 minutes of commercials, and then the film finally starts. In that time when I'm in the theater, I'm dealing with like this guy's farts and this guy over here and whatever. So for me, all of that time, I can deal with the people in the theater as far as their phones or talking or whatever, people being people. I can kind of assume I'm going into a soup of whatever I don't know is happening in the thing. But for me, it's bigger than that. It's the presentation of what the exhibitioner is giving me for what I'm spending. And I'd really like for that to be thought of better from a corporate standpoint, and the people they hire and the training that they do, even if they can't afford to hire more people because the industry is not doing well or whatever, they can only have 2 people. Well, in your interview process, find the 2 craziest movie people that are out there that really want to work at a movie theater, and hire those people who are hyped about this thing, and have them come in and they're all excited, and let their energy be part of the equation of what people experience when they come into your theater. They'll come back to see Tommy behind the counter who's so excited about the next Jurassic World movie.
Mm-hmm.
They'll come back to see that kid. That'll be part of their thing. But instead they just, that it seems like none of that is thought of. And instead they're like, people just want to be on their phones at home, like we've been talking about. They just want to be on their phones at home, which we do. So how do we make the theater more like their home? Let's put in a couch and let's build second screen. You know, Meta's like, we want second screen interactivity during the film. We want to allow that so that because people do that at home. It's like, no, I came out to do something that's not like at home.
Right.
And so give me an experience that's not like at home, and make it better than an experience on Southwest Airlines.
You know, it's funny with all of
this episode sponsored by Southwest Airlines.
Right. Ooh, not a sponsor, but please reach out. I agree with you. And, you know, you think about what somebody wonders, well, why are theaters dying? Why is the theatrical experience dying? Well, you've got they went in to all these theaters and they ripped out all the seats and they put in these new lounging, reclining seats, whereas a auditorium used to have 400 seats in it, now it only has 100 because these lounging seats take up the space of 4 seats.
And they're too comfortable.
And so I think, let's just say for the sake of argument that you sell 100 seats at $20 a pop. Okay. That's $20 or $20 a pop. That's $2,000 for a screening. Now and how often do you sell all 100 seats at $20 a pop?
Almost never.
Right. Let's say we just go to $5 a ticket and we have the regular seats, and that's still $5 a ticket at 400 seats is still $2,000. I feel like you'd sell more tickets. At least I would go more often if a ticket was $5 instead of 20. That's, you know, it's just, there's little things that I think about, like what you should do to make the theatrical experience better. So we kind of came up with, because I've been talking about how theaters are a sacred space, I came up with this 10 commandments of going to the movies, and I'm going to read them for you just to kind of wrap this whole shebang up, because we're approaching 45 minutes and I don't think anybody wants to listen to this for 45 minutes, but
you got to do your best Charlton Heston.
Oh, good God, no. My best Charlton Heston is not any good, but we are going to cue the organ music, and here we go. The sacred law of the silver screen. Number 1. Thou shalt turn off thy phone completely and without excuse. Number 2, thou shalt not speaketh once the trailers endeth. Is that a good Charlton Heston? I don't even know.
No, it's terrible, but
it's in the realm.
It's in the realm.
Ballpark.
It's somewhere in there, yeah.
Number 3, thou shalt arrive on time, lest ye walk in like a fool in the dark. That's less Charlton Heston. Number 4.
Mike Wazowski, yeah.
Yeah, really. Number 4, thou shalt not rattle snacks like a raccoon in a trash can. Number 5, thou shalt not illuminate thy face like a lighthouse with Instagram during the film. Number 6, thou shalt not rest thy filthy feet upon the seats of others. Number 7, thou shalt honor personal space, even if thou art wide of ass. Number 8, thou shalt not bringeth babes in arms to see Saw 19. Number 9, thou shalt clean up thine own candy wrappers, lest ye anger the cinema gods. And by cinema gods, I mean the poor saps that have to clean up after. And number 10, thou shalt remember, movie theaters are temples. Treat them as such.
Thank you, Brother Bart.
Thank you. You may all go in peace.
I was this whole thing has made me wonder about what would it be to create a space, a film going space that met all the marks.
Hmm.
Like, how would you create the thing that you actually want where, the movie theater companies aren't doing it? Maybe a
Sure.
couple, like Alamo Drafthouse tries to do a lot of this. They'll kick you out if you're talking
Yep.
or your phone is on or whatever. And they make it very clear at the beginning of the film that we will do that, which I think is great. That's why I go there. I'm in Austin, Texas, and it's from here, and I go to the Alamo. But like, what could you do? Could you actually have like a film club where, say, you had a space and it was either an old theater or an old church that you rented out, and you took Bart's screen that's in his basement and you put that up and you got a good sound system, and then you had people pay a club fee, so they're not paying to pay for the ticket, so you could show whatever you wanted. So you could show a 4K UHD version of, whatever came out this week, or classic films or whatever, like Bart's doing with his blow up thing in the backyard.
Yeah.
Could you have that, have people come in, have old school seating, or they're sitting in pews or whatever it is, have this thing, make the rules very well known. If you walk into this space, these are the rules. This is our place. We'll kick you out. Serve free popcorn. Popcorn and soda doesn't cost anything. So have free popcorn and soda, and maybe some, if you want to buy craft beer from the St. Louis brewery that you made a deal with,
Hmm.
you sell that on the side as well. And that costs a little bit more, but like the cheap stuff doesn't cost anything. You just get free popcorn. You get free Diet Coke if you want it or whatever, because you paid your club fee. You're a
Right.
club member,
Right.
right? And
It's a subscription.
it's a subscription that's paying for these things. And then you have a place where people can come, and you just have like a monthly program of these things. And what would be even crazier is that if you were doing digital, you allow digital distribution, whatever, you're projecting from your Amazon account or your Apple account, you're almost like Mickey 17 came out on the first of the month, but by the 15th of the month, it did terrible in the theater. So you can actually present it in your club on the third week since it was open
Yeah.
as a
It's true.
4K
Yeah.
as a 4K stream from Apple, .com or whatever, and have this thing that's your own space, that's this place. And maybe it doesn't have to have 100 seats, because it's not a business,
Yeah.
really. It's more of
Yeah.
it's a
You
club.
It's a
can have
club.
30 seat,
So it's
three
got
rows of
30
10.
seats or
Yeah.
whatever, and if you've got 12 people watching the thing on a Thursday night, those people are there for a purpose. They came to the place to watch the thing. They're part of the club, so they paid money to be part of this experience. And now they've got this thing. I wonder if that's where film exhibition will go,
I don't know, but I
or
would
or
love to try to make something like that work. But I agree with you on your you just pay a club fee, so it's the fee to get in the door. You're not actually quote unquote paying to see the
To
movie.
see the film, yeah.
And the movie just happens to be showing, so because that's the one thing I could think you could get into trouble with is, showing Mickey 17 to 30 people without the studio getting their cut.
You probably still could
um
get in trouble for it, but at least it would be
yeah.
it's not as much trouble. And I think it goes back to what Matt said earlier about where the experience starts, right?
Right.
In this case, this is people getting together to do something for a very specific purpose who are also already invested in the experience. And then you have other people empowered to be able to enforce when necessary um, those rules, if you want to call them that, that make sure that the experience is enjoyable for everyone.
Hmm.
And while that may not be viable economically on a large scale, certainly for people who are still invested in that experience and who still genuinely love movies, that would be the way to go.
Right. It's funny if I had one if I like one large sum in the lottery, I would probably open something very similar to that.
Similar to that.
And it would be like that, that scene in Citizen Kane where they're like, you lost $1 million last year on this newspaper venture. And he's like, yes, I lost $1 million last year, and I'll lose $1 million this year, and I'll lose $1 million next year. At that rate, we'll have to close down the paper in 90 years. And it's like, yeah, okay. You have enough money just to keep it alive,
Just burn it, for the
Yeah.
experience. But
Because
I wonder what it would even would cost.
Gosh, I don't know. That's a really good thing to research and to think about. And on that note, that wraps up this episode of Real Deep on the experience and etiquette of going to the movies. I want to thank our guest, Matt, for showing up today and chatting with us. I do hope you enjoyed hanging out in the cinematic trenches with us today.
Thanks for doing this with us, Matt.
Thank you for having me. This has been fun. I've never done this before.
If you're loving this format, drop us a review, hit subscribe, and share with your fellow movie buffs.
Next time, we'll be back in the lab pondering whether or not in real life we could create a hoverboard from Back to the Future.
So thanks for listening to Deep Nonsense. This is Bart and Dave and Matt signing off, and we'll
See you on the next
reel.
Real.